Hi, I'm Mark, welcome to Start Making. What we're going to do today is take a look back at last year and look at everything that went well and some of the stuff that went badly. And in doing so, I'm going to show you the tools, the tips and the builds that have been the best, the heroes, and the worst, the villains of the year. It sounds like an easy task, but I guarantee if you look around your workshop now, you may not have even noticed the things you use more often or less often, and the things that are really bad for the work that you do. Not to mention the builds. They're not all brilliant. You'll also have been given a huge amount of tips through videos and probably from people you work or know. Some might be brilliant, but others, The rules of this video are really simple. It has to be something I've either bought, told you about, or built this calendar year, and that's it. To start off with the heroes of the workshop, I think it's important that we start with the worst job that there is in any shed, and that's sanding. Whatever you can do to make your life easier is going to be beneficial in the long run, and you've noticed through my videos, I don't have an orbital sander. So I resort a lot of the time to hand sanding. And even if you have all the sanding machines, there's times that you will need to get the hand sanding out. Now, you can do it the hard way, roll up a piece of sandpaper and try and use that on all the different shapes and sizes, bits of wood that you've got. Or you can make your life a little bit easier with what is available cheaply online. This is my mouse sander, whatever you want to call it, hand sanding pad. This is brilliant. And so much so that I'm not just going to say this is the hero, but what it leads to is a really good idea for any workshop. I figured, why have one and you can have 4 or 5? And it's not because they're going to wear out, it's not because you're going to lose them, although you might. This is because the most annoying thing to do whenever you're sanding by hand is to keep tearing off the pads, changing up your grits from your 80 to your 100 to your 120, so on and so forth. Why not have a pad per grit? So now we've got one pad for every single grit that we use, and all we need to do is grab a different pad as we move up through the grits. You're only ever using one piece of paper, chuck it away when it's finished. And don't buy cheap Amazon paper like this. You might be asking, why have I got 2 different styles? That's for the long-term test. I've tested this shape, so I'm pretty sure this shape will work, but I haven't tried this, and I thought this looked quite interesting for sanding panels more. Anyway, stick your different grits on there, give it a try. Now, these next ones I think are pretty special. I think they're special in their simplicity. These are Velcro backed cards sanders. You've got one that's 125mm and one that's 70mm in width. You Velcro a bit of sandpaper on them and it helps you get into those hard to reach places. They've got a little bit of give to them. So when you want to get into joins, you've had some glue squeeze out or something that you just need to get in there with the detail, these are phenomenal. You could do it folding over a piece of sandpaper, but then it hasn't got the rigidity behind it to get a nice even finish. They are super inexpensive. You can even cut your own stuff up if you've got a roll like this with a Velcro backing and you want to get good use out of it. Just cut it up, pop it on your own pad yourself. And as a bonus for a UK-based channel, they're made in the UK. Now with any heroes and villains video, any video where there's winners and potential losers, there's always the also-rans. So there's tools that may not have made it into this category for one reason or another, whether I bought them over a year ago, or they're just not as game-changing as some of the others, but they still warrant a bit of a mention. You'll have seen me use these, card scrapers. If you don't have a card scraper yet, or you're intimidated by them, I think you should grab one. It's time to test it out. I've got a sharpening video. That takes the difficult, scary bit out of it. And once you get used to using them, they are a game changer. They're good. They're not quite heroes within the workshop, but they're good. Probably every build video I've used, you've seen this. Again, I bought it over a year ago. Pretty good though. Any heroes, you get your villains. You can have as many blocks as you want dedicated to all the different grits. You can have a great orbital sander, but if the sandpaper you're putting on it is not up to scratch, your value for money goes out the window and your finish probably goes with it. Cheap sandpaper on Amazon, it is not worth it. While we're on the subject of purchasing off online stores like Amazon, be very careful what you get and whether it is legitimately what it says it is. I wanted to learn how to use a Spokeshave and I bought myself one from a reputable brand, from a Stanley, and I'm still not convinced that I actually got what I paid for. Spokeshave is a really simple device. You've got your handle, you've got the blade, and you've got your cap iron. The fact is, when I got this, the two pins that actually move the blade up and down were bent. You can just about get it to work, but it is by no means a pleasure to use, and it is certainly not helping me become a better woodworker. You are as good as your practice, your experience, and the teaching you've received, but also you're as good as some of the tools that you use. I'm not saying you need to spend a fortune on a Festool domino to become an amazing woodworker, but tools will hold you back if you go cheap or you get faulty goods. There's a simple solution, which I like to put in with anything that I'm dissuading you against. Either go to a reputable company to buy them from in the first place, an actual tool company rather than just on Amazon, or why not go to a vintage or antique store, buy yourself some more older tools, vintage tools to practice with. And they're a pleasure to use, they're more tactile, and then when you're used to them, spend a bit more money and get yourself a brand new Spokeshave, a decent one. No workshop is complete without clamps, and everybody's got a different method, whether you've got worktop clamps, bench dogs that work with clamps, or you go with the F clamps, the ratchet clamps, the squeeze clamps, sash clamps. What I suggest for anybody that should be the hero of your workshop is the one clamp that serves the most purposes, the one you reach to the most. Go for a middle of the range, really high quality clamp. If you're just making small woodworking items, these will go a long way, and they don't blow the bank. They don't break down, they don't need fixing up when you first get them, unlike some of their cheaper friends. Spend once, spend wisely. Big hero of my workshop. Now, we spoke about tools and tips for the villains and the heroes piece, and this one kind of straddles both. Now, a lot of things that you use within your workshop will have a sharpened blade. Whether it's a chisel, a hand plane, or a spokeshave, and your blades will go dull. So you need to set up the easiest possible solution for this problem. There are many different ways of doing it, and everybody has a different bit of advice for you. When I bought the setup I'm on now, I think that's a big hero within my workshop. It's not a complicated setup. One, buy a set of stones all in one case. These are just diamond plates, and they go 400, 600 and 1000 grit. That's it. No, it's not quite it. Put them in a place in your workshop where they never get covered by something else, and they are always available to tune up your tools. Then get a strop, piece of leather on a piece of wood, and a honing guide. Do it more often than you think you need to do it. Never leave it until your plane is making great big grooves in your work or divots. Do it quick and often, and just tune it up all the time, and you'll get a great finish. This villain in my workshop has been used way too many times that I care to remember, and I have finally bought a solution that will entirely replace it. If you've ever had to get into a hard to reach place to get a screw in, you may have come across one of these. When it locks up, it will snap back and it will attack you. Let me show you what I got instead. I don't know what they even call it. This is a DeWalt corner screwer, tight place, screw turner. It's catchy. Basically what it is, it's impact ready, so you can use it on your impact driver, use it on your drill, and you can just slot it in and you can get into the hard to reach places because of the right angle on it. You don't actually get that many instructions with the box. There's a little hole in the back, and if you push something in there that's thin enough, that's how you get your bit out. Now that baffled me for way longer than I care to admit, but is it as good as I hope it is? Let me introduce you to the nicest thing I have made this year. I'm not afraid to admit that I thought this was well beyond me, and when I started making the video, I genuinely thought I was just trying to bend some wood. It's a drawer, but as you can see from the sides here, it started off as a flat piece of wood, and I managed to get it to bend around using kerf bending, which isn't that impressive unless you've never done it before, you're trying it for the first time and you don't have any of the big power tools, you're just using a circular saw. Then it's slightly more impressive if I do say so myself. But what it does leave us is a problem with this shallow drawer. And this is where I'm hoping this will come in, because in order to attach the drawer front, I've got two screws from the inside that I cannot get my drill into whichever way I turn it around. Oh wow, that was really easy. So simple. Back to the hero of the piece. This is something that I loved building an experiment that turned into something great, there is a little bit of villainy with it as well. I did not account for the one thing that all woodworkers pull their hair out about, and that is wood movement.
No, don't like that.
So as much as this is the hero of what I've built, I let myself down and I'm the villain in this build. The drawer has actually lipped away because there's some cupping. And that is a real shame because I can't just change the drawer front because we've got continuous grain all the way along. You might think that I'm really cross that one of the nicest things I've made all year isn't perfect. But then in woodworking, when you're learning, nothing is. Nothing you make is going to be absolutely flawless. This will bug me, but I've never shown it to anybody who's come around the house and said, here's a mistake, here's a mistake, here's a mistake, because you should never do that. They probably won't see it. And if they do, they'll be too polite to say it. I rushed this to make it into a video. And when I was putting finish on, lacquer, I didn't put it on the back. If you think this is cupped for any other reason, do let me know, because I learn from you guys as much as I learn from all the other videos I watch. The comments are amazing that you give me. I said it was an easy decision to choose the hero of the builds, and it was. But there was one other that did a very, very good job of pushing it close. And that was a bin. There's certain things that you just don't need to spend a fortune on, and having a bin that hooks on the side of your workbench and you can move it away and hook it on a French cleat out of the way is priceless. And the benefits to your workshop of being able to clean up between each project, priceless. Honestly, if you haven't got something like this set up and you are constantly throwing things in boxes or bags to get rid of them, consider making this for yourself. If you've got a couple of hours off this afternoon, you could have one by the end of the day. I have to say this is a bit of a bizarre one, and it's probably very specific to my workshop, but if you have dust extraction outside your workshop like I do in a little shed box, because the noise inside a shed as small as this is annoying, this will save you a lot of grief. And all it is an on-off switch for your plug that is remote controlled. If you have permanently wired power to your workshop, maybe don't rely on this to turn it off. Use it for the convenience through the day, on and off when you're doing your jobs, but have an overriding off switch for the whole shed for the end of the day or whole workshop, so that when you leave, you can sleep easy that there is no power that is going to build up and no fires are going to start through the electrics and these little things. Some small heroes that you will see in every single video that you probably won't even notice, but if you get in a mess and a muddle in your workshop with tools and small drill bits lying around everywhere, magnetic strips, just get yourself a load of them and pop all the tools that clutter your workbench up onto magnetic strips. Put them on the side of your workbench, put them on the walls, put them wherever you want. Attach them to a French cleat. That's a step up. That's handy. Pocket holes are brilliant, and for the last 6 months of doing these videos I've used them a lot. If you watched my most popular video with the 5 tools that I bought that were rubbish at the start, you'll see that I threw this under the bus. We tested it a number of times and overall it was just not up to scratch. You can do it the hard way, or you can do it the easy way. Anybody who is starting out, if you haven't bought yourself a pocket hole system and you think you're going to use one, it is totally up to you which way you go. You could go down the cheap route and you could do what I did and learn to use it and probably get worse results than what you want, but you can cover them up and you learn to work with what you've got. But if your budget will stretch to a good brand and a good bit of kit that can do repetitive holes quicker and better, then I would highly recommend going for it. This is one of the big heroes of the shop for this year. It will adjust itself to the different widths of wood that you put in it. It's quick, put the wood in, drill it, pull it back out again, and you get a clean finish every time because it is doing the job it is supposed to do. This is the way to go. What is not the way to go is the clamp that came with it. A one clamp that fits all, apparently. You're supposed to use it to hold the two pieces of wood together when you're doing a face frame or whatever you're going to be pocket holing together. You can adjust this little screw on the handle and then you can use it for all these different sizes of wood, and you'll never need more than this one clamp. Or you can never get it right and it'll never do a job for you, and it'll become fiddly and you'll just get really frustrated with it, and it'll hang for an entire 6 months on your wall and never get used. What have you made this year that was just awful? I bet there's something. Pop it in the comments. I'll show you mine, and why it is so embarrassing is because I did a video on it saying how great it was. It's the French cleat system. This wall I love. Because it's all done out of 1/2 inch ply, you can move everything around everywhere and it's perfect, does what I want it to do. The reason it is the worst thing I've ever done is that wall. I wanted a movable system that was all completely interchangeable, so why did I do some of them out of 3/4 inch plywood and some out of 1/2 inch plywood? There's no smart reason for it, which means these 1/4 inch brackets, which have a 1/4 inch piece on the back, won't fit well on there because the back doesn't touch the back wall and keep it sturdy. What was I thinking? I don't honestly know. If you're going to check out the French cleat video, first of all I apologise for the sound on it, because not only did I mess this bit of it up, I also put really loud music in because I was trying to be really edgy, or I don't really know. I don't know. It just... And we're going to finish off with the villain in the tips category. It's quite a big one because I dedicated an entire video to it. My opinion at the time was, if you are a beginner woodworker starting out, you need one hand plane. Which one? Stanley No. 4 vintage hand plane, because you can do it up and you can get it to do a job for you. That's not true, because we're all different and we all need different things out of a plane, and there's so many different planes out there. It depends on what you're after. So, you could go with your Stanley Sweetheart, low angle plane. You could go with a No. 5 vintage hand plane. You could go with the No. 4 and you won't be disappointed. But how do you know which one will suit you at the start of your woodworking journey? Because of the sheer volume of information that is needed, and because the answer is not simply just a vintage No. 4, I've decided that that will be my next video. If you're watching this video longer than a week or 2 after it's been released, it's there, right there. If not, that video is pretty good anyway, and it'll be coming. Thanks for watching. I'll see you over there.